So if you've got the vision for your business or whatever your goal is, like making sure you're ticking off those big ticket items that are going to, instead of just being potentially a sideways step or a very small level step towards that goal, because we got limited time, trying to tick those boxes that are the biggest steps towards that goal as regularly as possible.
Welcome along to the Lifting in Life podcast. I'm Cam, I'm the host. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology. I'm a personal trainer and I also work in IT. Today, I'm chatting to Cam Ravenwood. He is a farmer and a business owner from back home in NZ, based in Riversdale in the Wairarapa. We were put in touch by our mutual friend Jonty, and I was keen to chat to Cam because he has built a successful business while also maintaining a fit and healthy lifestyle. So our chat, we kind of delve into his journey and understand how he was able to build his successful business, which is in the sheep milking industry, which I personally found quite interesting. And turns out sheep's milk is really good in terms of its nutritional benefits, particularly protein too. And apparently in a blind taste test, people couldn't tell the difference. But anyway, that's a bit of a side note. So we understand how he was able to build this successful business, how he maintains his fit lifestyle, even though he's out on the farm a lot of the time doing a really physical job, as well as a whole bunch of other projects he's got on the go. And then we also learn more about how fitness has helped with his well-being, particularly in times that were quite tough, like during lockdown. During that period, his business actually lost about 70% of its revenues, and he kind of discusses how training was one of the things that helped him get through that very difficult time. As always, I appreciate you tuning into the podcast, and any support you can show goes a long way, and it helps me continue getting these awesome people on. So I hope you enjoy the episode, and remember, you make you. But
Sweet.
Anyway, Cam, we're here. We made it happen after Jonty was nice enough to flick me a message and yet again pass on another good recommendation. I'm keen for this episode to learn more about farming, fitness, maybe a bit of mental health, and just get to know you and more about your journey.
Cam, yeah, nice to be here. Jonty's certainly here. Good that he could put us in touch. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, man. He actually recommended Fred. Would have been about this time last year, I think. And I don't know. Do you know Fred? Yeah, I was just assuming that you do.
Potentially do you know last name?
Fallon?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah, he recommended Fred last year, and we had a good chat. So when he recommended someone else, I was like, oh, yep, I'm sure you'd be good to chat to. Where I thought we could start, because you grew up in a small town, Riversdale, and I grew up in a small town, Whakatane, which is, that's probably actually 7 or 8 hours drive up from Riversdale. That's probably a bit of a drive. But you were farming, you hunting, doing lots of sports. So I'm keen to get an understanding of what those foundational kind of years were like for you and what it was like growing up in a small town like that.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I grew up with neighbours with Jonty. So he was 4 k's down the road, which was good. But our school that we went to, Whareama School, we had 28 pupils, I think. I was the only boy in my year, and I had 3 girls in my year, and Jonty was a year older than me, and Henry Gaskin as well. And so it was pretty close-knit, pretty small, and we loved it. We did, like, looking back and like reflecting on it, it's pretty amazing. Like when you progress from there to other schools, you just realise how such a small school, everyone was there to learn and everyone was there to like partake. Like you had 28 people. So if someone was sitting out, not participating, well, it's, a pretty big proportion of the
like
total population.
Of
the school. Yeah. So everyone was involved with everything. Like you had from year 1 to year 8, well, more or less, you'd have full school lunchtime games and things like that. So it was quite good. And then, like, just even in terms of the classroom, it was amazing. Like looking back now, we were doing like 3 or 4 years like level like work ahead of maths. So we were like year sixes doing like starting to do year 9 college like math sort of thing. Just everyone was there to work. Like the teacher would just assign you work and you'd just do it, and everyone was like into it, which was pretty cool. And then quite a contrast in my intermediate years, just because I was the only boy there. I moved schools just to try and I guess branch out a little bit before heading into the big wide world of college. And yeah, you soon realise that a lot of kids aren't there to learn or anything, and the whole dynamic changes pretty quickly. And so that was, it was quite a really cool little school. We used to do like would have cross country training, and everyone would have to do it. Go out, and depending on your age, you might have to run 6Ks each day, and like a lot of schools obviously don't do that, and everyone, pretty much everyone was into it. So you always sort of had that balance of doing your work. You turned up, you did your work, you played, and you, because there was a small school, you got a bit more exposure to different age groups. There wasn't that, oh, you're year 6 and I'm year 7.
Segregation.
And yeah. So that was quite good in that regard. And then I guess just being small, we didn't really go into town too much apart from sport. And otherwise, just lived on the farm, loved farm life, and helping dad on the farm, and I suppose developed a bit of work ethic through that, and also seeing how hard he worked. And it was pretty cool building blocks, I guess, to go from there and into college, or into intermediate in college. So it was cool.
I can't believe how I was going to say, I can't believe how small your school was. Like when I said I grew up in a small town, there would have been a few hundred at our primary school or something. That's unreal that there were less than 30 people at your school. It's such a, I don't know, that must have been such an interesting experience. How do you think that kind of shaped your view of the world a little bit at that stage? It sounded like you got a bit of a shock when you went to a bigger school and realized, oh, everyone's not into it. But do you think that kind of helped with your work ethic, even at that really young age, being around all these people that were just keen to get stuck in?
Yeah, I definitely think it is. Like literally everyone you got assigned a task. We had no detentions at school because everyone like literally was just there to do their thing. And then, like you say, as you move to a bigger school, I did definitely feel like a bit of a fish out of water. Like I remember when I moved to intermediate, I was pretty unhappy for a start. So I didn't want to move from the little school, because I still had a couple of real good mates there, and I was like, don't need to move. But first moved, and I hated it. I was just we had to wear a uniform, because where I was from, it was just mufti every day. We had to wear a uniform, and I wasn't really into it. And the whole environment was just way different. It was a good, still a good sporty school in that, but it just took a lot of time to adjust. So I think it was hugely important for just like the foundational work of work ethic, and just as you say, like when you're around people that are keen just to get stuck in, it's you bounce off each other, and you just get more done, and you help develop those good habits.
It's like you're the odd one out if you don't want to do the right thing or the good thing.
No, definitely.
And then sort of growing up, you mentioned there about the farm and your dad being a role model. What did your role on the farm look like, sort of as you maybe got a little bit older, but still in your school years? How were you sort of participating in all the farm work?
Yeah, so basically, growing up, I was probably, like, my sister was really into farming, my brother not as much, but I was always real hands-on, and probably from quite a young age was involved, even like starting to be part of like decision-making side of the farming, and because I just took a real interest, and Dad used to always bounce ideas off me, and I'd always have my input. So it was quite cool. Like they've exposed me to like financials and things like that at like a really young age. Like you just started talking about like margins, cents per kg of dry matter, like what you could make, and pasture growth rates, and all sorts of things like that from a real young age. So it got me, pretty interested in numbers and just business in general, like at that stage. So I got my first work dog when I was 13.
Mm-hmm.
So was straight into working with dogs, and was actually pretty handy on the farm from that point onward, because I could go out and do stock shifts and be quite an asset.
So
And then
was it
from there,
your
just
responsibility to train the dog when it was given to you as your dog? Was it your responsibility?
she's my first dog. She's still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And dad got her for himself, and then I just sort of started training her. She was quite a soft-natured dog, and probably one that dad wouldn't have really had too much time for. So
Yeah.
I started training her, and then I loved dogs, loved working with them. So did that for my first one, and then about a year later got it would have been about 18 months later, got a heading pup, and from there just loved the dog work, and probably skipped a few steps like a lot of other people on the farm would probably do, but tractor work and things like that. But because I
Yeah.
sort of already had a dog of a team of dogs going, I'd doing work for other people, and I'd be doing a lot of like the stock work and shifts, and bringing stock into the yards for people to
Mm.
trench and things like that. So that
It's
was good.
interesting, man. It's like the stuff that you've done is like consistently been sort of beyond your years almost, but it sort of has clearly worked in your benefit. It's like you've been able to not necessarily skip a few steps, but maybe get a good jump on the journey sooner than what other people might have.
Yeah, I mean, I think I certainly like credit a lot of like just mum and dad's openness when they're running the business. I guess naturally, like I quite enjoy maths and things like that. So like just the whole business side of things,
Mm.
you get interested, like how to make money, what's margins, and so you just get exposed to those things, which I guess you start developing interest in that thing earlier than what other people might, because they just
Mm.
are unaware of it.
Yeah, don't get the same level of exposure, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. And throughout your school, as well as doing the farming, you're still playing a lot of sport, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like, we did everything. We were just sport mad. We Rugby was always my main sport, so I absolutely loved it, and that's sort of what I went down to Lincoln University like later on to have a good crack at some good rugby, and as well as study. But it was sort of the main
Mm.
driver heading down that
Study
way.
on the side.
Yeah. Um, and but through school, we'd always like primary school. We had a lot of cross country athletics like at that school. They always had like an hour every day where you'd go and train, so that was right up our alley. And then moving to college, mum actually, they bought a house in town, my parents, and so they wouldn't have to board because she didn't want to not see us. So
Oh,
so
nice.
they bought a house in town, and she was working in town as well, so we'd
Yeah.
stay there during the week and then head out to the farm. But
And
and
what
I
is
think
town when you say town?
Masterton, so that's
Oh,
sort of
yeah,
the
Marston.
main
Yeah, the
main
main
sort of
hub.
town for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and then I don't know if it was probably my parents' way of trying to keep us out of trouble and getting into other things, but
True.
they just allowed us to do basically any sport that we signed up to. So we were looking back, we were pretty busy. Like we'd do like swim training was sort of our base, which we use as base fitness more or less. So
Hmm.
there'd be quite often like a lot of afternoons where I'd run to swimming, swim, gym, come home, or like even potentially run home. Like we were just pretty much school then sport, and that was just what we did. And we did a bit of like indoor netball, like twilight hockey, and like things like that you just Friday night sort of futsal or whatever it is. So it was just school and sport, and that was about all we did. And then out to the farm, and that was we just loved it. It was like I've
Damn,
got
bro.
two siblings, and they were the same, just sport mad, and
It's such a physical lifestyle.
yeah, it's certainly like, and we didn't like really think too much of it. And like looking back now, you just think we were kept pretty busy. Yeah, you'd get home from school, and so whether it was mum and dad's way of just trying to keep us out of trouble, I'm not sure, but they were
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
good
yeah.
at making sure they'd drop us off or whatever to sports trainings and that. So
Yeah,
yeah, we were
and
just
as you, I was just going to say, as you mentioned earlier, you once you finish school, obviously you've already got this interest in maths and accounting a little bit. So is that what kind of prompted you or made you want to go down to Lincoln and study? Was it agribusiness and marketing, right?
yeah. So we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I guess I've always had the idea that I'm like really interested in farming, and I've had a lot of hands-on experience. So like, I felt like my actual like day-to-day farming knowledge was pretty good, and like skills were pretty good, the and Dad always encouraged like to try and do something that is not farming initially, or maybe adds value on top of farming, and
Mm.
understand more so now than ever. Farming is you're running a business, like first and foremost. Like
Yeah.
probably about 15, 20 years ago, farming was like you could just get away with like you'd shift sheep, and that was that, and like you didn't have too much like bookkeeping in the sense of um, fertilizer applications and animal health records, and just there's just so
Oh,
many records now
yeah.
that
I
you
suppose
are like,
with the sort of emergence of technology, I could imagine all the different apps and all that kind of stuff that you must have to be pretty savvy with to manage all your stuff.
yeah, definitely, and a lot of it's just around compliance, so like just making
Mm.
sure that yeah, ticking the boxes, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, sort of thing. So um, yeah, so I think that's certainly what it was the driver to head down to Lincoln, like the agribusiness food marketing undergraduate degree, and then continued on to do masters there while we were sort of starting the business at the same time. And but yeah, it was sort of my idea that it would give me a bit more of the business knowledge that would potentially need down the track, and
Mm.
it's pretty translatable to anything you do, like business side of things, and just understanding more about economics and that. And then the marketing side was partly because this whole sheep milk business idea started to be thrown around, and so we're thinking, well, that could come in handy. So yeah, and we'd heard good things about that course as well. So thought, well, go down there, have a nudge, and play a bit of rugby, and yeah, that's sort
Yeah,
of
I when I messaged you and kind of just asked a little bit about like who you are and what you did, because obviously I only got a name and that you grew up in Riversdale and you're a farmer. That was like the main
yeah,
thing that I got. And then you sent me a nice detailed message. One thing that I really like that you put in there, and now you're talking about starting your business, is that it was kind of like how did you? Oh yeah, I want to read it exactly how you wrote it. You said starting your own business was a sense of controlling your own destiny on the farm. So was that decision to start the sheep milking business kind of like a fulfilling like a sense of purpose or a bigger goal? You know, what was that decision like for you?
yeah. I think largely what it came down to is like because I had been like growing up from, I'd say probably like from around 12 up, like I was reasonably like got kept in the loop of what was happening on the farm financially and that sort of thing. So I had a pretty good understanding that the best performing years financially on the farm weren't actually the best performing years of the farm. So like because farming is basically a commodity driven cycle, is always something that I was really frustrated with. Like you could put, like, well, my parents especially could put their heart and soul into a year, have a really really good year, production, nail everything, but then be 20 to 30% lower in revenue just because commodity cycles are
Mm,
down. So that was something for me I'd always looked at and thought it's pretty frustrating. And it would be awesome to try and have something where you have a little bit more control, and if you were able to say like for milk, say, so you had a fixed price of $2.30 per litre, or whatever it might be, and you know that it's going to be that for the next 3 years, you can budget and forecast and make business decisions so much easier, because you know what your, like, there's obviously variability in production and things like that like farming has so many variables, but it's a lot easier to sit down and do budgets, and which I think as well, it's always been a hard thing on farm, like mum and dad, like, you always see it. It's a hard time to sit down and do a budget, because there are so many variables, and you're just taking so many guesses as to what the sheep meat price is going to be in 6 months' time, and that sort of thing. So I was just, I guess it was an idea that we were hoping to take a little bit of stress out and a little bit of the guesswork out of farming, and then hopefully increase revenue on farm to allow us to employ more people, which hopefully would help with work-life balance, as farmers are notoriously known for a big lack of. So that was the whole idea, was trying to do something that, well, on the farming side, like made lives better, made lives easier, a bit more, something that took a little bit of stress load, ideally, off parents, which probably has just added more on with all the work that we've been doing. But,
what were some of the key differences in that business model versus the current one that were going to make it more maybe predictable or less stressful?
I was probably from a naive perspective, but I guess just the theory was, because we'd be selling out the end product ourselves, so we'd be able to go to market, and there wouldn't be so many middle people clipping tickets. But also, when the idea of sheep milking came across, like, we didn't just sort of think, no one's doing sheep milk, let's just do that. It came up. There's a little article that Dad cut out of the paper, and it was in my last year of school, and like, we'd never ever considered milking a sheep or anything in that regard. And like, traditionally we're sheep and beef farmers and have no dairy experience. So anyway, he cut this article out, and it had a little bit of information, like very limited, but basically was saying that sheep milk was selling for $18 a kg of milk solid, and I think at the time cow was around $6 per kg, and I guess the economic,
so 3 times the price.
So the economic side of my brain was thinking, well, why are people not into this?
Why are they wasting their time on that?
So anyway, like, I started looking into it, and because I've really been really into my fitness and health, and nutrition was a big part. I was always spend a lot of time just self-researching nutrition, trying to figure out how much protein I should be eating to try and grow bigger muscles and that sort of thing, as you do. As you do. And just it just ticked ticked so many boxes, in the sense of, for people who couldn't tolerate cow's milk, sheep milk was a easy digestive alternative. So that was a big one.
What are some of the key differences between dairy and sheep milk? I've never actually looked into sheep milk. Like, I typically drink like alternative milks, like oat milk and stuff now, just because, not out of any reason, but I've never looked into something like sheep's milk. Can you talk to the nutrition of it a little bit?
Yeah, and so that's largely the reason why we got into it. So it's got, compared to like whole cow's milk to whole sheep's milk, it's got about 60% more protein and calcium in cow's milk. It's higher in, like, for the key amino acids, isoleucine, valine, leucine, isoleucine, and valine are the 3 sort of key building blocks for muscle growth and recovery, and they're more than double what's found in cow's milk. I think one of them is 2.5 times. They're high in like magnesium, zinc, folate, phosphorus. So just overall, just a lot more nutrient dense and packed full of the goodies. But they also, the structure's different. So there's only A2 type proteins, which is sort of been seen to be digested easier, but the fatty chain acids are all short to medium chain, whereas cow's milk is all medium to long. So again, it's just easier to digest, and the lactose ratio is half the amount than what's in cow's milk. So for those
Wow.
people, like, it's basically a combination of all those things that mean, we in our experience, it's like 98% of people who haven't been able to tolerate cow's milk have had our milk without any issues. So we've had people that have been off cow dairy for like 20 odd years and now onto our milk and have no issues, which has been pretty satisfying. So yeah, nutritionally it stacks up, and we actually have like the All Blacks use the milk for recovery when they're together for their trainings and things like that. So
Really?
there's
That's huge.
yeah, so it's, I mean, not that we can really like promote it or anything because they're obviously
Yeah.
tied up in all sorts
Sponsors
of
and all that kind of stuff.
yeah, which is and that's probably one of the realities of the world that we didn't realize when we were first starting, is that the whole world is so commercialized. Like there's nothing. There's got to be a gain or a benefit for everyone, and even if you've got a really good product, if you can't, pay millions of dollars to get it out publicly, it's not going to be there. So that was probably one of the big learning. But yeah, so it's cool to have them using it, and then so that ticked two huge boxes, was the nutrition and digestibility, and then the third one was kind of like the sustainability side of things. So just being smaller animals, less likelihood of pugging, like soil damage, and also they have a much lower susceptibility to causing nutrient leaching. So just basically because they're smaller animals, like urine patches are small, so it's not like,
because that's one of the main like pushbacks against cow's milk too, right? There's the amount of like CO2 emissions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And then the third one was like cow industry has come under a lot of scrutiny for like what happens to bobby calves and things like that, which and that's something that we were like, well, we can change and be different. So what we do, and we're I'm pretty sure we're still the only ones, but only dairy farm in New Zealand with the SPCA animal welfare certification. So it's like basically just looks at how you farm and that sort of thing. But one of the key things that we do is all of our lambs stay on mum. So they all rear their own lambs and then get weaned when they're sort of 40 to 45 days old, and the lambs get weaned onto pasture, and then we start milking them. So it's quite a really nice way to do it, allowing that natural bond, and then you're basically weaning them at quite a crucial point before, as the lambs get older, they can start doing a lot of damage to the ewes, and also the ewes start to lose a lot of condition because they've been chased around by 2 or 3 lambs that just constantly want food. So
it's interesting to see. Like it's so obvious that you're not just like, you didn't just perceive it as like an easy money grab or something like that. Like, the finances were there, but like it's so evident to see that you considered all the different variables and that are involved in something like this and how it differs from the main competitors, right?
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think like I reflect on it quite often and like to mates and stuff, and so there's way easier ways of making money. Like, and in like hindsight, really, like this is probably more of a not a pet project, but it's like one of those projects you probably would usually do after you've gone out and made a bit of money and can invest quite a bit back in to grow this sort of thing. But it's sort of something we've decided to do straight off the bat. So, but yeah, it's certainly done out of interest and passion more than it's a big job. So it's not one of those things that you can just jump in there and make a whole lot of money and retire.
Another key component to it. How does it stack up in terms of taste?
It's good. Yeah. So I mean that was quite a key one. So we basically taste like a creamier version of cow's milk. We did quite a bit of testing, like under red light when we were first getting things going, and people couldn't tell the difference between whole cow milk and whole sheep's milk when they were doing it. But then there's like this mental thing when you tell them that it's sheep's milk, like in the studies that we're doing, like they could taste the difference. So, and we're always very like understanding, because we was like, and before we looked into it, if we had heard of sheep's milk, we'd think, oh, what the hell are you doing? So we started off with flavored milk. We did started off with coffee, chocolate, vanilla to try and start to break down some of those preconceived barriers as to how it might taste, and then we progressed to just a plain milk and slowly extend the portfolio. So we've got a probiotic yogurt and a labna, which is like a Mediterranean cream cheese, and we're just down the path of getting some firm cheese into the market in the next sort of wee while.
Damn, bro, that's epic. When I'm back in NZ, maybe next year, I'm going to have to try some of this. You're selling it to me.
Yeah.
How do you think your expectations prior to starting the business, when you're in that like real fun ideas stage, that's probably the most exciting time when you just get to hypothesize. How do you think your expectations of the business aligned with actually doing the thing?
It was pretty quick come down to reality, I think. I think when we first started, we sort of mapped out how much would we need to sell, and we were like, I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but we were like, we probably only need to be in like one or two supermarkets, because there's probably like 10,000 people going through there a week, and if we can get like 100 of those people buying 2 a week, like that's pretty good maths, like it stacks up. But like we had no supermarket data at that time, and when you actually go and buy supermarket data, you realise that there's not many brands out there that are selling that volume of flavoured milk. So we're pretty sort of blindly going into it, but also it's and even just like starting the business, we were pretty blind and naive, I say, because we're sheep and beef farmers that had no experience cow dairying. So we started up a dairy business. We started up a manufacturing business because we do all the processing ourselves, and we also started up a marketing business. So we basically...
That's a lot, bro. Like one of those businesses would be a lot and require a lot of time, energy, effort, all of that. And like you decided to go all out and start up each component of that. How do you even like structure that kind of approach into spinning all those different plates?
Like initially it was certainly just that seeing things through glass, rose tinted glasses, probably thinking, it won't be that hard and it's not going to be that much time into each component. But and once we started down the journey, it was sort of like, well, we're here now, we've got to roll our sleeves up and make it happen. So you sort of like, there's no things that I think have jumped out. Like we've just constantly refined how we've done things. Like we've had a big breeding program on farm to increase production per ewe. And to be fair, like on farm stuff's probably almost the easiest stuff because you're dealing with animals, and then as you're coming off farm, like even the processing, that was like a big learning curve, but you just had to do it. Like there was us, like we couldn't afford to go and pay people to do it, so you just rolled your sleeves up and had to do it. And then the marketing side of things, and that like I had like a bit of exposure to it at uni, but it pretty quickly shows that university is theory driven, which is far from practical, and it always looks good on paper doing a marketing plan, but and all that sort of thing, like marketing plan and a launch and whatnot, but actually implementing it is quite a different thing. Like it's so very, very big gap between theory and practical. But so we just basically jumped in pretty blindly and have just built out the systems and processes over time, and now it operates pretty smoothly. And we just had to do a boatload of learning really to get to that stage. And probably like the hardest side of it is more the marketing, because you're dealing a lot with people. Like we sell predominantly through supermarkets, and we're a very small player compared to Fonterra, who sort of own 98% of the cold shelf space. So it is hard to you go to some places and they actually own the fridges, so you've just got no chance of actually getting your product on the shelf.
Man.
So it's quite like a learning curve. But because we are like our niche and a niche sort of product, we did have that advantage in trying to get in there and serving a alternative milk purpose. And yeah, our first year of business actually went really well. We were growing really, really quickly. And then I can't remember, it must be 2019 was sort of the start in that first year. And then we aired on Country Calendar,
Oh,
the
whoa,
end of
that's
that year,
epic. Yeah.
which that was really cool. And
Yeah.
I just drove heaps of attention to us, and
Mhm.
that was really good. Like we're just selling pretty much like we were doing our numbers were doing like per units in each store were some of the highest out of any category, like even
Wow.
like cow.
Damn, and that was your first year in business.
Yeah. So
Shit.
we're only in a few stores, to be fair. Like we're only in like probably 12 or so
Yeah.
stores, and that was just so it was amazing. Everything was ticking over honky dory, and
This is easy.
and then like during this time too, we'd always had the idea that we were going to export, because we just knew New Zealand's a really small market, and
Yeah.
also being like sheep's milk, it's really easy to digest. And 60% of the Asian population is like cow dairy sensitive or intolerant to some respects. So we thought, well, that's a big opportunity. So sort of through that year, we're investing and spending quite a bit of money to set up for that. And we sort of just got set up, and then COVID hit the following year, which just,
Bro.
and we were doing a lot of flavoured milk into sports teams as well. They were buying it for recovery.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit and just didn't wipe us out, but it just sat us down a lot. I think we probably lost about 70% revenue, I think, from that, which was pretty huge.
Yeah.
And we just started exporting too to Singapore. So we got over there for 2 weeks, and then that just completely was gone. So it was like quite a ride, I guess. You go from our first year of business this is easy.
Yeah.
To thinking, we should probably going to have to get a few more farms, or get our U numbers up pretty quickly, or figure something out anyway. And then that sort of happens. So it's quite a high to very quickly coming back down to a low. And then it sort of took that whole COVID period was in and out of lockdowns for I don't know, 18 months. So it was quite like a reset period for us. And then since then, we've just been growing back pretty steadily, and like well and truly beyond where we were. But obviously costs and things like that have gone up a lot. So it's been quite a journey, from our initial concept of getting started, and like things that we had in the business plan, and things that we didn't, like COVID and all this inflation.
You can't forecast for that.
Yeah. So it's been
interesting. I was going to say your approach. So I saw this quote recently, and it's like become one of my favorite ones. And it goes, iterative progression is better than delayed perfection. And I feel like that sums up your journey so much, where you're like, oh, we better start a manufacturing plant. Okay, how do we do that? And then you give it a go, and then no doubt it was probably pretty shit when you first did it, and then you probably got better. And then whereas like you didn't get stuck in this like, what would the perfect sheep's milk manufacturing process look like, and then be thinking about it for 6 months or 12 months instead. Like you just kind of got stuck in, and you just sort of were chipping away at each phase of it. Even when something like COVID comes along, I bet it would have been stressful and all that, but then it sounds like straight away you're like, okay, what's the solution to this? Do we need to get more in this? Do we need to invest more in here? So I really like and admire how you're not getting stuck in the theoretical phase for too long. It sounds like your approach is more just practical and just give it a dig and see what happens.
Yeah, and I think because quite early on, just realised that the theory side of things is again, as I say, such a big gap between like the theory and actually how it works. And like I think a lot of lecturers would probably get a shock if they realised how inaccurate some of the stuff that they're teaching is actually applicable in the real day-to-day life. So it's been it's certainly a learning journey, and it's just constantly like what we've realised, it's just a constant like problem solving. It's you're not really ever comfortable. There's constantly something that you're working a way to either increase efficiency or there's a key problem that you're trying to solve with. Potentially, like we've been doing product development with cheese at the moment and had benchtop scale, like was just going primo, and then the scalability, getting it up to larger volumes, took a lot more tinkering, and because we're like using different equipment, and there's just a lot of like frustrating slight reformulation, and so it's just often if you spend too much time perfecting things, you'll find actually when you're out there doing it in bigger scale or that sort of thing, it needs completely redoing anyway. So you may as well get a fair idea and then tinker as you go.
Yeah, it's not until you actually do the thing that you realize how it works in reality, right? Like spending all that time in the theory, there's just variables that you wouldn't even know existed until you actually started doing the thing.
Yeah, definitely. And until you've actually done it, as you say, like you can think how something you might feel as you're doing it, or you think the challenges that might come up, but you could be so far away from the actual reality of what the biggest challenges are, or how, I don't know, different. Well, for us, for manufacturing, different, like we control pH drop is quite an important thing for making cheese and yogurt, and like just how those changes happen at a large scale compared to small scale, and everything is in a book. It would all run smoothly, but when you're doing it in practice, it's slightly different.
Yeah. When it comes to those challenges like you're mentioning there, can we zoom into that sort of COVID time a little bit for you? Because it kind of, at least this far, touch wood, has probably been the biggest challenge you've had to get through in the business journey so far. What was it like when you first noticed like the numbers and everything start to go down as a result of COVID? Like how are you feeling at that time?
Yeah, it's pretty like because we've never been through anything like that before, like just as a world. So it was a bit shocking, a bit eerie, like just in the global scheme of things, how you'd go out on the street and literally no one was there, you're locked down. It was all really uncertain, I guess. And like we obviously took a huge hit, and we were not really sure what to do. We'd built up this thing that was growing momentum really, really quickly. We had started exporting, and we just like it looked like what we'd sort of planned to happen was happening, and then all of a sudden it was all gone. So yeah, I think we just thought, well, we'll just keep rolling on, roll with the punches, and see what happens, because like we really had no idea what the timelines were going to be. Would the markets pick back up once things had changed, or so there was nothing that we could go to and model off. Like you couldn't go back.
Such an uncertain period, right, for everything.
Yeah, so it was definitely like we sort of. I mean, obviously it was hard. Like you were thinking, shit, like spent all this time building this business, and now it's not gone, but it's significant roadblock, and you can't do anything about it. So at the time, I guess we tried to stay as positive as we could. Like for me, as opportunity to hone down on the farm side of things. So had more time in that regard. So just trying to get that operating efficiently, smoothly, even just like processing systems, just trying to hone in on efficiency. And just doing what we could, because we knew that we couldn't do anything within the market. Like you can't get out there and go and talk to people about, hey, do you want to stock our product and whatnot. And so we were just doing what we could to still be trying to feel like we're making progress within the business. And probably a fair bit of gym time in that as well during that period where you just like I've always been huge into fitness and gym, and that's probably, it's like a huge release for me. Like, I know to get mentally, like, stay mentally sound and on top of things, like, it is just a part of your life that it has to be, like, that fitness and that release, endorphins, that feeling of like you've earned your sleep and that sort of thing. So that was definitely a big part too, like, just keeping on top of that and not trying to feel too like, why now, why, that sort of thing. Like,
What did your zooming in on the training a little bit? What was your training like throughout that time?
I definitely like, because we had less time to go out and do some of the usual, like, market activities, like getting into stores and trying to do sales and promotion, because everyone's focus was not on that. It was all on how do we keep toilet paper on shelves and that sort of thing. And so it certainly increased. Like, my training was like, my frequency was high. Like, I always usually try to get a session in every day, or probably works out to be about 5 or 6 times a week. But yeah, during that period, like, you'd do a morning session and maybe something in the evening as well. And it was just the time is to get back to peak fitness and peak physique sort of thing. So it was still just a lot of the same, but just trying to keep that routine going, as far as having other goals outside of business. So, like, you've got, like, your strength goals, as far as I'm quite into body weight workouts and just trying to achieve like muscle ups and things like that, like different variations and different, like, core exercises, and just, I guess, having goals outside of business and that
that's an
was quite
interesting
important.
point, actually, because if you just had all your kind of, I don't know, identity or like self-worth or something wrapped up in that one thing at that time, it probably potentially could have hit you a lot harder than having goals in other areas of your life too, that you could maybe see more progression in this space as opposed to this space for now, because of the whole COVID situation that was going on.
Yeah, I think that is real important. Hey, like, and I think just even in my whole life, like, I just know that the fitness is a huge, like, really important component to staying mentally focused and everything. Like, if you do that, I perform better as a human. Like, I just know if I tick that box mentally, it's good. Physically, like, I'm fit, healthy, I can go, like, we do some pretty long hours in the factory or whatever. Like, if you're not healthy in that and not eating well, like, it's going to take its toll pretty quickly. But because I sort of am aware of, like, health and nutrition and that, it certainly helps that side of things.
It's interesting, right? Like, you don't need to necessarily know all the science and stuff as to why exercise and eating well is good for you, but just, again, by practicing the thing, you realize that, wow, I feel and function a lot better when I know I'm taking care of myself on this other avenue as well. And especially some, like, that period like COVID, I feel like you could have gone one of, like, or people went one of two ways, right? Either just at home, probably drinking more and like eating more and not really doing much, or like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to start running now, or like, I'm going to go to the gym more. And that's like such a pivotal thing, I think, at least when it comes to mental health and pulling yourself through those kind of challenges.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think physical exercise is so much to answer for, as far as keeping the mental health in a good state. I was just thinking over Christmas, like, we don't always get heaps of time off, but me and my partner went down south to spend Christmas with her family, which was really nice. And it was the first time in a while that we just sat down, had done nothing. And we still went to the gym and a few things like that, but we were literally, our day was pretty much just parked up on the couch. We did a few, like, watched a couple of movies and that sort of thing, and went for a couple of little walks. But I never ever felt so tired and lethargic in my life. I had the most sleep I'd ever been
Yeah.
having for the whole year, completely relaxed, and I'd felt like absolute crap.
Mm.
And it is, yeah, I think it was a real eye opener for me. I could see
Yeah.
actually how you could fall into that trap of like the people that get tired and think, oh, I just need more sleep, and like I don't want to go out and do physical exercise because I'm just feeling so tired. But it's just that
Yeah.
constant negative cycle that like constant loop that just is
Yep.
reinforcing it. Whereas you go out and exercise, and all of a sudden you got your energy back, and you're mentally you're clear, and that was a real eye opener for me too. Thinking shit, it's not just something that is my opinion. Like, there's definitely something to this
Mm. And that
this
seems so
exercise thing.
counterintuitive too, right? That like you getting more rest and relaxation and taking it easy actually makes you feel worse. But it's so true, I reckon. Like it's the movement that creates energy. Like by
Yeah,
doing more, I guess there would obviously be to a certain extent you wouldn't run 100K every day, but
yeah,
like the movement to a certain extent is what creates the energy. And I know for me, like I've felt it like in terms of I don't know, maybe like stress or irritability. I'm like, why do I feel more like titchy or something? Like I got a shorter fuse. I'm like, oh man, I haven't like trained in 3 days or something because I've had
yeah,
to, had time off for whatever it is. But yeah, man, that's so interesting that you noticed that after taking time off, you actually felt worse.
yeah. No, it's been it was a good eye opener, eh? And like because
Mm-hmm.
we keep ourselves pretty busy in the sense of like we've got the business, and that's probably like one of the things that I've always had like a rose tinted glasses look on. Oh, that'll be not too much work. So we did me and my partner did it. We had this old cabin on our farm that we was really run down, and we thought, oh, with all the business stuff going on and whatnot, we'll just chip away at that, and it'll only take us like a couple of months to do it up and check it up on as a short term rental, and it ended up being like an 8 month project. We'd milk and spend like on the weekends, like be working milk, like start at like 6, go till about 2 on the farm, have a quick lunch, shoot down there, and then be down there like renovating until like 9 at night, um,
Damn, bro.
and so it was just like a real eye opener to like when you say yes to these sorts of things, how like, those were testing times, but actually taking like there was times it was quite stressful, and you're like, oh, we're just doing too much. But if you could come back, and even though you're on your feet like all day, if you could take an hour out and do like planned structured physical exercise,
Mm.
it's still dramatically improved like mentally, and just like even though you're using more physical exertion, it was actually really healthy way of keeping mentally like sound and on track, and
Mm.
not fighting with each other so much as we
Yeah.
go through the process. So yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
wonder what it
it's
is about it. I wonder if it's to do with it's like a focused time just spent on improving some area of yourself, like for yourself. Even though you're doing physical work on the farm and stuff, like the purpose of that is so much different to saying to yourself, oh yeah, for this 1 hour, I'm going to the gym and I want to work on my muscle ups or whatever it is that you're working
yeah,
on, even though it's like the act is physical, but like that's almost like maybe I don't know, like the intent behind it or something is different.
yeah. And I wonder if it's because it's like a selfish intent, like you're there to
Yeah.
work on you versus
Mm.
like you're mentally, if you even if you're doing physical work, building or farming or whatever it is, or office work, like you're there putting all your energy into um, something else and
Mm.
working on that. And then as soon as you come back, like to going for a run or going to the gym, it's very basic in the sense of your brain actually doesn't have to do too much work. It's almost
Mm.
like a cool down period for your brain. I reckon that it allows your brain to recharge, even though you're obviously doing physical exercise. Your brain's having a
Mm.
bit of a rest because it's quite basic. It's not having to calculate or do anything like that. It's just a bit of focus and
Yeah.
pushing yourself a bit. So yeah, I don't know exactly what it is, but it's
Nah.
certainly
But
yeah,
it's interesting how you say like the intent might be selfish, even though you're actually by doing it, you're a better person for the people around you. Like even
Yeah.
then, like you're saying, like you and your partner, like that would be a good time for you guys to do it, because then you're less likely to argue or something when you're going down to the cabin and doing it up or something, because you've given that time for yourself. So it actually makes you a better person for the people that you're close to as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like you feel it certainly in day to day. Like if you do have a couple of days off and you're feeling like mentally you're just a little bit more easily irritable, and then you go to the gym and it's just like just life's easier, mood changes. It's instant therapy. Yeah.
Kind of changing tack a little bit, but still on a similar vein. I feel like a lot of people nowadays always say they don't have enough time to do stuff. It's a really classic one.
Yeah.
And just having a little bit of an insight into your world, it sounds like you are busy almost all day, every day. How do you kind of manage your time and structure where you allocate your time? And maybe actually to make it more tangible, what does a typical day actually look like for you?
Yeah, that's a hard question. Yeah, managing time, I think, like for me, I'm probably quite poor at it in the sense of I am a person that has like interested in a lot of things. Like we've got a business that takes up a lot of time. Like we do some long days. Like for processing, we'd do 16-hour days a couple of times a week, and then do pretty standard day would be like a 12-hour day sort of thing, 10 to 12 hours, like just working on it. And then still trying to get on farm where I can. So time management, yeah, it's certainly hard. And I definitely struggle in the sense of, like now just recently as well, we've just moved a house on, to a bare block of land that we purchased, and it's a complete like redo up renovation and one of those things that like realistically don't really have time for. Like we've got the batch which we run as a short-term rental as well, try and get out just keeping a couple of pups to start training up for on farm. So yeah, like my time management, to be fair, I'm quite poor at, in the sense of I certainly take on more than what I should be, but I also know like I've got a really good mental fortitude for I can cope with stress like really well under pressure. I don't shy away from a long hour day if need be. So, but basically, like what I try to do, especially like coming back to the business side of things, like each week I'll try and have a task list. Basically, like we obviously have the day-to-day business that is non-negotiable that you just have to do, like the processing, getting orders out, things like that. And then from that, it's like trying to have tasks that you tick off that that are going to make your day-to-day operations better or ensure that you can continue to run. So a lot of that's around, well, for me, I do all the risk management programs, so all the basically making sure that we're ticking all the boxes and all of our food is going out safely, and all the way that we're any animal health treatments or anything like that on farm are done correctly, and like so just do that whole spectrum. So trying to ensure that I have some key tasks that ensure the business can continue running, that are above just like your day to day putting milk into bottles and milking sheep and that sort of thing. And then also try and have tasks that are in line with our business goals or growth goals. So, because it's really, really easy, and like we certainly can fall victim to it quite often, is just doing the business, and there's always more things that you can do, like in the factory or on farm, that it doesn't actually have a direct return on investment of your time. So it's trying to be disciplined, and that's something that we're constantly working at, is being disciplined that, okay, we want to grow our revenue by X. This is our plan that we've put together, how to do that. The tasks that we have to action are this, and a lot of that task is sales, and myself and my brother who are sort of the main drivers behind the brand side of the business, aren't really salesmen at heart. Like we sort of hate that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
The cold calling and that
Oh yeah, man.
isn't really up our alley. Like we do it and we're comfortable, but there's certainly other things I could do before that.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to set those tasks out each week to try and stay disciplined, so that you can, from a zoomed out perspective, look at it and think, yeah, okay, if I achieve these, we are working towards our business growth and our goals.
That's quite a key thing too, right? And I was going to ask actually about that, how you focus on the specific business task versus like taking a step back and asking yourself and your team, like, where do you see yourself going in the future? But it sounds like you have quite a structured approach to like getting that day-to-day stuff done that needs to be done, and also that high level overview, because I think it's so easy when you're doing something just to focus on the doing of the thing. Like, I don't know, even like the podcast like this, for example, it's so easy just to focus on each episode at a time, but then let's take a step back. Like, what is the purpose of doing this? Where do we want to be in 3 years or 5 years? So is that kind of the stuff that you're quite interested in doing and have quite a bit of passion for?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we I just know the importance of it. Like, if you can work for a full year, head down, like just going for it, and if you don't take the time to like have a breath and look to actually the direction that you're going in, like you could quickly realize all you've done for that whole year is just tick the day-to-day boxes, do a whole lot of tasks that yes need doing, but also aren't as urgent as doing those sales calls or doing the like updating the RMP to make sure that you're still compliant, or like things like I call it like the big ticket items that are actually going to. So if you've got the vision for your business or whatever your goal is, like making sure you're ticking off those big ticket items that are going to, instead of just being potentially a sideways step or a very small level step towards that goal, trying to tick, because we've got limited time, trying to tick those boxes that are the biggest steps towards that goal as regularly as possible. And that's, we always do try to zoom out, because we also have, like, we are doing big hours, and we know that's not something we want to do forever. So the quicker we can grow it, the better. And to do that, it's got to be pretty structured and pretty smart, because otherwise we're just going to be banging our heads against the wall for 3 or 4 years and, and then realize,
but sometimes it's like when you're doing the thing, it feels productive, right? Like, it feels unproductive to have a 1 hour session on, I don't know, where we want to be in the next 12 months. Whereas like doing the thing on the farm or doing the thing in the manufacturing plant is the thing that can, like, in the short term feel like work. But I think it's so spot on what you said, like that might actually be steering you in the wrong direction, even though it might feel like the right thing to do in the moment.
And that's like, it's having that ability to zoom out, I think, is so important, because especially like, and we've started becoming a lot more disciplined, as I say, in the business growth side of things, just ticking off the tasks that if you had a to-do list at the start of the week and you knew that you had to be doing 5 cold calls a week to try and hit your sales, and you just had a list of to-dos, that'd always probably be the last thing on the list, and you get to Friday and think, oh, Friday, people don't really want those calls, we'll do it next week. And then you lose a whole week of actual progress towards that goal of increasing your stockers or increasing revenue, or so it is zooming out, and we always measure things like weekly, so we're looking constantly at like weekly revenue, so we don't I guess we're trying to compete for the last week each week, so otherwise if you just are reassessing only once a year when you're doing your financials, it's like, oh shit, we've gone completely gone off track here. Whereas if you
Yeah.
can more or less, like, we're not doing a huge review, but each week we're being conscious of like, where revenue's at and what
Mm.
numbers are looking like, to make sure that that's always forefront of the decision going into next week. It's like, well, this is where we are. We're still like X amount away from our goals, versus, if you're doing it 6 monthly or yearly or quarterly, you're reminding yourself of your goals way less. And
Yeah.
so they're not as forefront of the mind.
Yeah. And that sales call example is so good too, because it's like that missing the sales calls that week. Oh yeah, it's fine. But then, oh, you missed it the following week. And then all of
Mm.
a sudden, out of 6 weeks, you've done 2 weeks where you've done sales calls. It's like in the short term, it seems okay. But ironically, like those are the things that, like, if you let them, they could stack up over time. And that could be a large reason why the business doesn't do as well as it could, because of all these micro decisions on a Friday morning when you're like, oh, nah, people
Yeah,
don't want calls today. And that was just the decision that you made that morning. But you make that every second morning or something, or every second week. That could be the thing that stacks up and works against you.
yeah, definitely. And look at like micro wins like that, because
Mm.
as you say, if you skip it, you do 1 or 2 weeks in every 6, or over a year. That's a huge amount that you're missing. Like, you're only doing a third of that year, so you might only have 15 or whatever, like, calls, like actual weeks where you've done it. And if you sort of roughly know on average your success rate is X, like
Mm.
amount, or conversion rate is, whatever it is, you times that by 15 or times that by 52, like, that's a huge difference when you get to the end of the
Yeah,
year
man.
as to where your
Yeah.
progress is.
Yeah, I think because I was listening to a podcast or something, and they were talking about it, but they likened it to like gaining weight. Like, you eat that thing today, or you drink that thing, or you skip your workout, or you skip your cardio session, and that's all done with a temporary view, right? Like, what do I feel
Yeah,
like doing today, or what don't I feel like doing today? And then 6 months or 12 months, then all of a sudden you've gained 10 kgs or
yeah,
20 kgs, but it's like the negative result that happens in a year's time is as a result of like those decisions that you made temporarily on that day.
yeah. And it only takes those micro decisions too. It's like, I've been eating
Yeah,
pretty well today. Oh, let's
yeah,
just have an ice cream or whatever, and you blow your
yeah.
calories out. And that's, I guess, going back to that measuring, in my like fitness journey or whatever, like a
Mm,
big thing for me. Like a lot of people always, I guess, go off weight and constantly weighing themselves at the gym and that sort of thing. But one thing I've found, like, really transformed me, because I try to be reasonably lean and keep on top of body fat
mm.
percent and that sort of
I,
thing.
I
And
feel like even just through your face, I can tell that you're quite lean. Like you look pretty shredded even through your face.
yeah, I'm not at my peak, but I try to keep it down.
Mm.
But yeah, what I did, that I just found was huge, was bought a body fat caliper.
Oh
And
yeah.
instead of like jumping on the scales, and you can have a huge fluctuation in weight, like by a couple of kilos, depending on water weight, time of day, and
Mm.
how soon it's been since you went to the toilet and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, and it was just, and not that those are accurate every time, because they also change depending on how hydrated you are in that. But
Mm.
I got obsessed with it for a period there where, I did want to get um, shredded, more or less, and wanted
Yeah.
to lose body fat. And it was just every day I'd measure at the same time. And
Fuck.
and it
I feel like that
was,
would drive you crazy.
yeah, well, it was just such a huge thing, like, mentally, because, again, I sort of go back to like the weekly sort of numbers that we chase in business. So that is constantly at forefront of your mind. So, like, when I was doing it every day,
Mm.
like when it came to those decisions throughout the day of, like, oh, I could go
It's
like
like those
a pie or
decisive
something.
moments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or meal planning, and that, it's like I could be pretty keen on a chocolate bar or whatever it is, but then I like straight away mentally go thinking, oh, but I don't want that number on the body fat caliper to go up today. And
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
can
yeah,
see quite like a trend of it going down. So it's quite like a mental
yeah,
thing that you are making progress. And it taught me heaps about eating too. It just,
yeah,
and I'm probably the type of build that I'm not naturally huge or anything, but I can certainly put body fat on pretty easily if I want to. So it's like that
yeah,
huge learning curve where you can have 3 days of bad eating and shit. You can actually stack on a bit of
yeah, man.
noticeable.
Pudge.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when it comes to those fitness goals, just like exactly how you liken it to your business goals. If you don't, one, create a clear goal of what you want to do, but two, oh, those just thumbs up. Anyway,
yeah,
that was weird. But also measure it and know what you're working towards. Like so often, and this isn't just fitness goals, but people will be like, "Oh man, I'd like to lose some weight," or like, "Oh man, I'd
yeah,
like to get in shape," or like, "Oh, I don't know, maybe like, oh man, I'd like to save some more money this year." But then if you're never checking in and like what having some kind of measure as to what success looks like and actually checking, am I being successful towards that goal? You just
mm,
never know. I suppose it comes back to that whole thing of like, if you don't have a clear aim, you also don't know when you're not being successful. So if
yeah,
you don't say, I want to save 10 grand, and then you don't save 10 grand, you don't see that you weren't successful in that. So it's easy, you kind of just keep coasting. And
yeah,
I don't know if maybe measuring your body fat every day was maybe a bit much, but the idea is there, like
yeah,
every week or whatever, every 3-4 days, checking in, like, am I on track with this goal? But it's
yeah,
so easy just to keep your head in the sand when you're maybe wanting to achieve something, because if your head's in the sand, you don't know when you're not being successful. But the flip
yeah,
side is that you also don't know if you are being successful. Maybe you're doing a really good job, but you're not actually putting the measures in place to realize that success.
yeah. One of my favorite like little quotes is, "If you don't measure it, you don't manage it." And
Yeah, that's so good.
it's hugely like applicable because as well, like as you say, if you don't know what you're doing is working or not working, you might continue to do it for a whole year and be in the same spot. So at least
Mm.
if you're measuring it, you quickly figure out, like, liken it to the body fat, like you pretty quickly, if that number's continuing to go up, well, I'm eating too much or I'm not doing enough
Yeah,
exercise. So
yeah,
it's, whereas if I was weighing myself, I could just be in that mindset, oh no, I'm just putting on muscle weighs more than fat, or
mm. Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
it's one of those, yeah, and like the measurement has to be relative and a good determining like factor of your success.
yeah.
But I think it's so important.
Yeah, and one thing that I've sort of picked up from a lot of athletes and coaches that I've chatted to is that if you're not sort of measuring what you're doing, you don't know when to implement the next change in the plan. Like so often, like you'll hear from coaches that their athletes just randomly chucked in another, say, bench press day. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
why did you make that change? Oh, I don't know. I just thought, I should add it in. Was
yeah,
your strength not going? Oh no, my strength is still going up. So it's like, if you're not measuring all these factors, you don't know when the right time is to influence a change or bring in a change. And so often, especially like when it comes to more high performing people, I would argue, I don't have the evidence, but I feel like you would have a tendency to do too much. So if you weren't doing your calipers, you might be like, nah, this isn't working. I need to eat one
yeah,
less meal, or I need to go for another run, even though the plan is actually working, but you're not measuring it. So you're just chucking another thing, even though it's not required.
yeah. And often because results for anything in life often are gradual. Like you don't just go from being chubby to ripped like overnight. So you
Yeah.
you like if you are on that journey or vice versa or business or whatever, you often don't notice the change. So you,
Mm,
because it's so gradual, you yourself are like, well, I can't actually see anything getting that much different.
yeah.
Whereas if you've got like numbers, and again, like if you're trying to increase your strength and you're writing down week to week what numbers you're hitting in sets and that, you've got something to refer back to and think, oh, no, these like I've made some good inroads here into my
Yeah.
100 kilo bench press that I'm aiming towards, or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
it's
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 like
like
that sales call thing we were saying, like the not doing the thing can gradually take you down a negative path, but doing something consistently can have the opposite effect where it gradually takes you in a more positive path.
yeah, it gives you a good reference point, and yeah, so it's something. Well, especially for me, I know, like, mentally, if you can refer back to it and see progress. Like, I think most humans like to see progress in some sense.
Yeah.
And if it's not progress, well, it's still extremely valuable information, because well, that's
Yeah.
not working, so let's
Yeah.
try something
And
else.
that's the thing, right? That's why measuring it and not achieving it, oh well, you didn't achieve it, but at least you know you didn't achieve it. You didn't
Yeah,
unknowingly not achieve it and then not be able to influence any change on that thing.
yeah, exactly. And like, if you
Mm.
didn't achieve it, at least you know what the strategy was for achieving. So if you are to adjust your strategy, you're making
Yeah.
changes that are working towards that goal. Versus
Yeah.
if you've just got a goal and no strategy, and you sort of don't really remember, like, the process of how you've been trying to achieve it, so you just keep making willy-nilly sort of adjustments that
Mm.
are
Mm.
following no real structure.
Exactly, man. And speaking of goals, before we wrap up, what are some of the upcoming plans or goals on your horizon that you can at least tell us about? None of the top secret stuff maybe
Yeah,
that you're working on, but what are some of the goals for maybe this year that you're working towards at the moment?
yeah, we're still, like, a big thing for us, like, business wise, is all of our products at the moment are fresh in nature. So we're trying to build out the portfolio to have a long shelf life product alongside with it. So that's what we've been doing with the product trials with the firm, like, hard cheese, and so that's going to be, um, excuse me, a really pivotal part of our business going forward, because it's going to complement our fresh product, which is really good cash flow, and it just helps drive everything. And then you've got the long shelf life, which you can store for up to a couple of years, sell it
Mhm.
with good margins, but you can use it whenever you've got any excess milk. You can turn it into that. So that's a big goal of ours this year, is getting that launched, and of high quality, because everything we want to do is high quality. And as I was saying earlier, it's taken a bit of tinkering to get the commercialization phase done properly. So yeah, getting that stage going. And we're working with Woolworths a little bit through a Seed Lab program. We're pretty keen to try and launch into Australia the end of
Mhm.
this year. So getting to supermarkets over there, just to, again, take that next step to growth, because, as I was saying, New Zealand is a very small country that's spread across a very large
Mm.
landmass. So it's not, it's certainly not the easiest place to do business, but it's not a place that you're ever going to, in our minds, achieve the level of business that we want to. Like, we want to be able to
Yeah.
grow it and hopefully get opportunities for other farmers to get into it, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Australia's certainly on the horizon. And yeah, so that's probably a sort of two big goals in that respect. And then hopefully trying to get one or two more people on board, like either semi or permanent employment, just to bring back a little bit of work-life balance for ourselves, but also help sort of keep that growth phase going.
That's epic, man. I've really enjoyed this chat, honestly, and getting a bit more of an insight into your business life and also your fitness life. It still blows me away how much you do and how much you fit into your day, if I'm honest with you. But I feel like it's quite inspiring how you have the vision, but you also focus on the to-do list, like the day-to-day stuff. And even though it's like specifically applied to your context, I feel like those are frameworks or lessons that can be applied to anything. I mean, we even related them to fitness goals, I guess, but like can be related to so many different kind of pursuits.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome to chat, and
Yeah,
always
man.
nice to do something a bit different with jumping in front of a mic and having a yarn.
Yeah, why not, man? Oh, and one last thing. If people do want to check out your journey or maybe what you do in the business and what the business is up to, where are is the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, our business is called Fernglen Farm, so we're on Instagram, Facebook, and fernglenfarm.co.nz for our website for like any information if people are interested to check it out. And yeah,
Hmm.
should have and you can contact me through that if there's any people that are wanting to do
Yeah,
that.
man.
So yeah,
I feel like definitely the protein content probably got some people excited, if I'm honest with you. So who
yeah, it was
knows,
a big
man?
driver for me when I was looking into it.
Yeah. Like tick,
Yeah,
get
yeah,
bigger muscles. Yep.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, find
No,
that edge.
exactly, bro. No, thanks heaps for coming on today, man. I genuinely enjoyed chatting to you. I appreciate your time.
Cheers, Cam.